Happy Friday! Not only is it the end of the week, but it also means it's time for this week's Friday Tech Roundup. In today's episode, we'll be covering security breaches, a brand new podcast which we know you're going to love, and we'll also be looking at the first electric voting system which has been trialled over in America. All really exciting and all be coming up in the next 5 minutes. Number 1, GitHub, the leading repository of open source code, experienced an outage on Tuesday lasting approximately 2 hours. During this time, millions of developers were affected as they were unable to access the open source platform. What's really interesting about this piece of news is that it happened 2 days before the US Citizenship and Immigration Services Deputy CIO, Yemi Oshine, noted that they would be using GitHub to help them with a change request for a router that shared an enterprise environment with the Secret Service and Transformation Security Administration. Yemi managed to convince the internal development, infrastructure and security teams to make the move, and now they benefit, as millions do around the world, with being on the open source platform. Number 2, Google made the headlines this week after trying to index WhatsApp group chat links and inadvertently making all those links public, including private chats. This story surfaced after Jordan Wilden discovered the loophole earlier in the week. Since then, people have jumped on the story, and including that is Motherboard, who is an online publication by Vice. Further investigation showed that not only were these groups accessible, but also by requesting access, you had the ability to view names and numbers of all those involved. This is just another reminder that users wishing to keep their data private do not use publicly accessible websites when sending messages. Number 3, it came light this week that the Financial Conduct Authority released confidential details of more than 1,600 consumers back in November. This data included names, numbers, and addresses, so it was an incredibly dangerous data breach for those involved. What makes this data breach particularly embarrassing for the FCA is that they fined Tesco Bank a whopping $16.4 million for failing to protect their own customer data back in 2018. So it'd be really interesting to see what consequences are taken against the FCA for this particular data breach. Number 4, and we're really excited to be bringing this to you today, it is a project that we've been working on for the last couple of months, and today is the day that the first episode of the TechCube podcast goes live. This is powered by ECS and hosted by Rosie Binfield and Ben Shinobi, and is the perfect platform to be discussing all things transformation. Each episode is going to look at a different theme of transformation, focusing on the 3 pillars: people, process, and transformation technologies. Now, for you guys watching today, the first episode went live this morning and includes Sunil Taylor talking about everything serverless and cloud. We've dropped a link below, so if you want to check that out today, really do. It's super interesting, and we really hope you love all upcoming episodes too. Number 5, the people of Fulton, Wisconsin were lucky enough to be involved in the first live trial of Microsoft's Election Guard electric voting software over in the US. Now, this is the first time that US has ever trialed this kind of software, and whilst it's only going to be handling a couple of hundred votes, it's a real positive step to us being able to use these sort of software in future elections. But what's actually really, really interesting about this is that it came up as an idea 9 months before it became a pilot program. And there is promise that there'll be many more pilot programs to come in the future. So watch this space. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today for another round of the Friday Tech Roundup. We hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and hopefully don't get snowed in. As always, everything we've spoken about today has been dropped as a link below, so do check that out. And again, don't get through this weekend without looking at the TechCube podcast. It really is worth your time. Have a great weekend. Take care.